Hi and welcome to today's vlog. Now, before we dive into today's subject, I want to tell you that tomorrow is the next in a series of faith journey conversations. I know that those of you who watch these vlogs really enjoy, particularly the faith journey conversations that I've been having with various people over recent weeks. Tomorrow's, all being well and God willing, will be with a lady called Janet. Now, when I rang Janet earlier this morning to just have a brief chat about the faith journey conversation that we're due to have, she told me that it was her and her husband's 18th wedding anniversary. And that's a great thing to celebrate, and they were having a day of celebration. In fact, I think her husband, David, had just brought her a coffee or something like that. Anyway, later on in the morning, this morning, she posted on the WhatsApp group that we have with one of my churches, a couple of images, one of the day they got married. In fact, they're both from the day they got married, I think. The first was from the service and dressed up in their wedding outfits, wedding dress, wedding suit, etc. But the second was their going away outfits, their honeymoon outfits. And it was quite funny, really, because Janet was dressed up in her Grimsby Town supporters kit, and David, her husband, was dressed up in his Swindon Town supporters kit. So there they were, newly married couple, dressed up in their club's colours. Of course, Grimsby Town and Swindon are sometimes opposing teams. They play each other. And I commented when I saw that image, it's a great example of unity in diversity. That here are two people who are passionate supporters of their own team, but they've come together as a partnership in their marriage. And that led me on to kind of that question about how do we accomplish unity when there is so much diversity all around us in society? How do we hold in tension the very different perspectives, backgrounds, understandings, cultures, etc.? And we've seen in recent days, haven't we, violence, police being attacked, demonstrations, expressing anger and deep-seated feelings. How do we hold so many different ideologies and belief systems and everything else? How do we somehow, while we celebrate the wonderful diversity of the world around us, how do we hold that intention in unity? So I thought I'd just look into the Bible, because so often the Bible has wise words to say on a whole array of subjects. So let me just share with you a few verses that I discovered. The first, and it's interesting that a few of them come from the book of Proverbs, which is a book of wise sayings. Proverbs 17:14, beginning a quarrel is like opening a floodgate. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. So there are times when we disagree with someone, but we need to think to ourselves, is it wise? Is it the right course of action to take this further that might develop into a quarrel, which the proverb says a quarrel is like the opening a floodgate. And when a floodgate's open, it's hard to we can't hold the water back. It's the flood is running wild. So we need to think before we enter into what we might call a discussion, but might end up in an argument, and things might be said that are rather unfortunate and we regret. Or how about this from the book of Ecclesiastes? Patience is better than pride. Don't be quick-tempered, for anger is the friend of fools. Wow. Patience is better than pride. So often the arguments we get into, the contentions we wrestle with, have to do with our own pride. We want to be in the right. And I think well, I've no doubt that there've been times when that's happened in my own marriage with Sue and I, and something has happened and we just disagree about it, and pride begins to play a part, and you want to be proved right. Don't be quick-tempered, says the writer, for anger is the friend of fools. And we all know that when we get angry about something, yes, there is a right anger, angry against injustice, against prejudice of whatever kind, but so often anger can lead us down a valley, a track that we really don't want to be down. Another one from the Proverbs 15 verse 1, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. If we find ourselves being opposed for our views or whatever, and somebody gets a bit belligerent, often if we answer gently and respectfully, that can help diffuse the situation. But if our hackles rise and we begin to hit back with our harsh words, that can be like pouring oil on a fire, and the flames begin to rise and everything begins to get out of hand. Or another one from the Proverbs 18 verse 13, what a shame, what folly to give advice before listening to the facts. And I think this whole thing about listening is such a key lesson that we need to learn, that we sometimes we have our opinions, but actually we don't fully know the facts. Which of those who've been protesting about these various statues I talked about recently, which of them have taken the time to actually read about the people concerned and make an informed opinion? How easy it is when there's an argument going on to throw our pennyworth in, but actually we don't really know the facts of the matter. Maybe what we've heard is just hearsay, and it may not be the truth, the reality. So if we try to give our own advice, but we actually don't know the full facts, that often is not very helpful. So let's jump into the New Testament now. 2 verses. The first from the letter of James chapter 1 verse 19. My dear brothers and sisters, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. You've probably heard it said that God's given us 2 ears but only 1 mouth. So we should listen more than we speak. We sometimes dive in, don't we? But again, it's that key element of listening, to respect a person by listening to them. Try and in some way understand where they're coming from. If somebody violently disagrees with us, can we try and listen to them to try and understand where they're coming from, how they've formed their opinions before diving in with opposing views? Let's value the person, respect the person, even if we don't respect their views or value what they're saying. We can value the person, respect the person as a human being made in the image of God. And then finally, Ephesians chapter 4, Paul is talking about the new way of living as a follower of Christ. Get rid, he says, put behind you bitterness, passion and anger. No more shouting or insults. And look, we've seen that on our TV screens, haven't we? People shouting and bawling and throwing about insults, as well as more physical things. No more hateful feelings of any sort, says St. Paul. So that's what we put behind us. But then he says, instead, be kind and tender-hearted to one another. Forgive one another as God has forgiven you through Christ. Kindness. Can we show kindness to those with whom we bitterly disagree? One of the chaps at Methodist Training College years ago that I felt close to, had such a good bond of friendship with, I highly respected him, was someone whose theological views were very far from mine. but that didn't seem to matter. It wasn't his views, it was his character, his nature. And I've often failed in this, but I've tried to get along with people of very different perspectives. And my hope and my prayer is that we can, not only as a church, because it doesn't always happen in church, but also as a nation, can somehow learn to get along with each other, even where we disagree very, very severely. So Lord, we pray that you'd bless this nation with that ability to respect one another, to disagree in an agreeable way. So God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today, and look out for tomorrow at my Faith Journey conversation with Janet, the Grimsby Town supporter.